welcome back to another episode of The Jump. A lot of basketball to talk about, some college sprinkled in here, but mainly NBA, some more NFL draft talk, and then a little Kentucky Derby at the end, the little bit that I do know. First of all, let's talk some ball. NBA playoffs. I'm going to run through each series a little bit and just kind of throw out some points because it'd be boring if I just sat here and talked about every single game. The Celtics, as I'm recording this, they just ended up getting a gentleman's sweep over the Miami Heat. It was dominance by the Celtics in games 1, 3, and 5. And when the Celtics lost game 2, it looked like, well, maybe the Heat are going to end up spoiling a dream season again. But it was ironic because after game 1, everybody was like, well, welcome to the second round, Celtics. But pure dominance in games 1, 3, and 5. Tonight they won by, I think, 34. So it was just, as of right now, as I'm filming this, it looks like it's just Nuggets Celtics and it's inevitable and nothing's going to stop it. That's just what it feels like. The Celtics obviously they had a little slip up, and then the Nuggets didn't hesitate at all. But no Jimmy Butler or Terry Rozier for the Heat this whole series, so that's obviously going to hurt. Jaime Jaquez didn't play in Game 5. Not that that would have made a huge difference, really. But obviously missing some guys. So and Jason Tatum stepped up at times. He did what was needed. Other than that, the Celtics just played their ball. Other than Game 2, they literally just played their basketball and it won. Kristaps did get hurt in game. It was either Game 3 or 4. I want to say it was 3. And then they ended up winning 2 straight without him. It could have been 4, and then they just won Game 5. But so that's definitely something because Woj put out the report that he's out minimum several weeks. So that next series, if there's the series isn't over between the Bucks and the Pacers. If the Bucks end up winning that and they have Dame and Giannis healthy, it's not a series to glance over by any means. So that's one interesting note for that series. But yeah, Celtics win that series 4-1. Knicks 76ers. The Knicks lead 3-2 right now. They should have won it last night. On Tuesday, they had a game. They hosted the Knicks in New York, which every game this series has felt like it's a home game because the Philadelphia. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's just a bad sports town, but they haven't sold tickets. It's literally just been Knicks home games every time they've played in Philly. But I want to note, Game 4, Jalen Brunson, 47 points. It was crazy. He took over. But Game 5 is the one I really want to talk about. Tyrese Maxey, man, completely took over this game. Joel Embiid ended up with a triple-double, which is insane because I heard Mark Titus put it, what did he say? I think he just said, Joel Embiid has officially ruined stat lines. Because he truly did play really bad. Joel Embiid did not play good in Game 5, and he had a triple-double. But, that does show how good of a player he is. But Tyrese Maxey ends with 46 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. 7 for 12 from 3. But the ending was the true. So, the Knicks are up 6 points with 28 and some change left in the game. Up 6 points, you think that's over. I was very close to turning it off. And then Tyrese Maxey ends up going down, getting Mitchell Robinson in a weird position. Mitchell Robinson fouls him on a 3. He hits the 3. 4-point play for the Sixers. So then they're down 2. They got a foul. Obviously 2 free throws will probably end it. They foul Josh Hart, misses the first, makes the second. Then Tyrese Maxey with 8 or 9 seconds left just goes down and shoots literally from the logo. I know nowadays the logos are big enough to where they don't seem that impressive, but it was a legit logo, 35-footer, something crazy. He hits an insane shot, and that ties it up. And then Nick Batum. Nick Batum played a phenomenal defense down the stretch there in that Game 5 to extend it, and he had the game-saving block there at the end when Jalen Brunson had a shot. So that was after the 3. And then Tyrese kind of took over in overtime too, and they ended up winning. Tyrese Maxey, he is one of 2 76ers ever to score 45 plus in an elimination game. and he's one of two. I should say to score 45 plus in an elimination game. The other one is Wilt Chamberlain. You've probably heard of him. And then the other stat that was from that, he's one of two Sixers to ever have 45, 5, and 5 in a playoff game. Him and a guy named Allen Iverson. So, elite company for Tyrese Maxey. He balled out. And like I said, 7 for 12 from 3-point. It was an efficient 46 points. It was awesome to see. Like that, he's becoming a star right before our eyes. I mentioned it earlier, Bucks and Pacers. The Pacers lead 3-2. That game, hold on. For the Knicks 76ers, I believe that game, when I'm uploading this, it should be tonight when you guys are seeing this. Let me make sure. Yep, 9 o'clock in Philly. And so is this Bucks-Pacers game. So, Bucks-Pacers, Pacers are up 32. They should have closed it out. No Giannis the entire series so far, and no Dame for games 4 and 5. And I saw that that game 5 that they had just won, that the Bucks had just won. It was the first time that a team has ever not had their top 2 leading scorers and they've won a playoff game. So, that's pretty bad. I saw somebody put it like the Pacers just lost a game to the Milwaukee Herd. So that's essentially what it was. But, I mean, they're both day-to-day. They both were almost able to play in Game 5. So, I don't think it's crazy to say that they'll be playing tomorrow night. I could be posting this and looking like an idiot, and they both sit out and Pacers just win and move on. But, I don't know. It's scary hours for the Pacers because, like, obviously you still have 2 chances to do it. But if Giannis and Dame come back, that percentage shrinks a whole lot. So that's a series that's getting interesting. The least interesting series of all to me, I love all basketball, but I don't know. You could probably guess it. Cavs Magic. Cleveland leads 3-2. This is literally just a story of up until Game 5, it was just the home team dominates. So Cleveland dominated games 1 and 2, went up 2-0. The Magic dominated games 3 and 4, defensively, offensively, won by like 30 or 40. But then Game 5 was actually kind of close. Cleveland won it. They were also at home. So I would assume the Magic will end up winning theirs. It also doesn't help this is on NBA TV. So I think it'll probably go to 7. I mean, if this series continues to be what it was, I think that would be an interesting note. One thing I do want to note, I've been keeping up with it. I haven't watched a ton of it. Evan Mobley's been playing some elite defense. So obviously he was a very high draft pick. I don't remember what draft pick he was. But he's becoming a superstar. And it's not necessarily like the highlight plays that are going to get you posted by overtime, but his defensive like IQ is through the roof, and he's starting to show it. And he's having clutch plays late in games, and it's been super cool to see him progress through these early years of his young career. Then we go to the West, the Thunder versus Pelicans sweep. OKC was the overall 1 seed, a little bit expected, but I did expect the Pelicans to get like 1 game, but I don't know. I mean, the Thunder are insane. Daigneault, shout out to him, he just won the NBA Coach of the Year. But the Thunder, youngest NBA team to ever win a playoff series. So the dogs are barking in OKC. I think it's going to be cool, though, because they'll end up playing the winner of this series. I'll mention here in a minute. I have the game on right now. I started filming because it seems like the Mavericks are going to end up running away with this one in LA. Well, P.J. Washington just fell and then gave up a dunk. But yeah, Thunder swept the Pelicans. And obviously there's some storylines if they end up playing the Clippers in the next series. But Nuggets, Lakers, this will probably be the one I talk about the most, just because it has the most stat-wise, off-the-court stuff, whatever. So Jamal Murray, Game 2, had the crazy buzzer beater, and then ended up hitting the same type of buzzer beater just on the elbow in Game 5 to end it. So it was a gentleman's sweep there for the Nuggets Lakers. Nuggets won 4-1. And like I said, Jamal Murray, when it was time, he would lock in. He could play horrible for 30-something minutes, and then it's just the last few minutes he just locks in. And if they need it, he can do whatever. He just turns into MJ down the stretch. But I want to mention, just in case, I don't think it will be the end of LeBron's career, but I want to throw out some stats because there has been like a lot of hate from the MJ crowd. And look, LeBron's not even my favorite player in the NBA right now. My favorite player in the NBA is Anthony Davis. I mean, I like LeBron. I love LeBron and I love Michael Jordan. But I want to put some context behind what LeBron has been doing because he's doing stuff that nobody has ever done before. LeBron is one of 6 players in the NBA to play 21 seasons. Vince Carter, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Robert Parrish, Kevin Willis, and LeBron James. LeBron in this season has more points than all of the other guys combined in their 21st season. That's insane. And then, if you compare it to, there's 2 players ever in their 21st season to go on into the playoffs. LeBron James, Robert Parrish. To put their numbers next to each other, LeBron averages 28 points per game this season in the playoffs. Robert Parrish averaged 1. LeBron averaged 7 total rebounds per game in the playoffs this year. Robert Parrish averaged 2. LeBron averaged 9 assists in these playoffs. Robert Parrish averaged 0. True shooting, LeBron shot 64%. Robert Parrish shot 14%. It is unreal what he has done. I know people like to say like modern medicine, but like I don't understand how that's an issue. Longevity, it should matter when it comes to talking about great players. Like whether you think he's 1 or 2, it should be part of the argument. I think it's just something that should be discussed. And I think it's awesome. It's been super cool to see. I mean, this guy came into the league when I was 1 year old, and he's still doing this at the highest of levels. Like I said, 28, 7, and 9 in the playoffs on 64% true shooting. That's crazy. He was almost averaging 3 steals a game in the playoffs, too. He was completely taking over the end of these games, and Anthony Davis was, too. Like, I don't want to take any light off him. Both of those guys were doing all that they could in this series. It just didn't end up going as planned. But I want to mention this because this is an insanely interesting thing with that series. So, after losing to Denver 114 to 103 at Denver in Game 1, the Lakers played the Nuggets dead even in the next 4 games. 429 points both ways. Both teams had 429. And the Lakers also held a halftime lead in all 5 games, and they lost the series 4-1. That's crazy. I can't believe. I don't even know how that that doesn't make sense. But I mean, going into it, I don't know if I don't remember if I did it on this channel. My predictions for the series and stuff, but this one I was like, it's gonna be 4-0 or 4-1, just because the Nuggets have the best player in the world. They have the best playoff player in the league, and Jamal Murray. Like, the Lakers don't have the depth to do it, because all of the swing men are really what ends up changing all these series. Like, Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon are the true reason that like the Nuggets win this series, because as hard as it is like to cancel out Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, LeBron and Anthony Davis did it. Those absolutely scratch each other out. Obviously, Jamal hit big shots in the end, but like they scratch each other out. Michael Porter Jr., KCP, Aaron Gordon, Peyton Watson, like these dudes, like these are the swing men, and that's the guys that like truly make the difference in these series. And it's also like you got to note that like they drafted all these guys, so like for the Lakers to be able to build something like this right now, AD and LeBron got to take huge salary cuts. They got to, I mean, they'd have to give up a whole lot. Like, the way that the Nuggets have built it is like a dream scenario. And, I mean, obviously you kind of luck into getting Nikola Jokic to end up being what he is, because you can't tell me the Nuggets knew at 41 they were getting that guy, and they're like, yep, this is literally going to be the face of the league. There's a little bit of luck in it, but, I mean, the Nuggets have done it as good as you can imagine. Another sweep, Timberwolves Suns. A new star has officially arrived. Stephen A. Smith put it like, there was MJ, then there was Kobe, and now there's Anthony Edwards. That's wild. And one thing with Anthony Edwards, he already has more 40-point playoff games than 97.4% of players in NBA history. That is nuts. He's only been playing, he was drafted in 2020, so this is his 3rd, 4th year. Yeah, like it's wild. More 40-point playoff games than 97.4 players in NBA history. That's crazy. I mean, you could just tell in game one this wasn't going to be much of a series. The way that, I mean, KD was sitting there smiling, like, I don't know. It's crazy. Some more stats from this. With Jaden McDaniels as the primary defender, Devin Booker and Bradley Beal shot 23.1%. So, as Anthony Edwards said, they got KD, but we got Jaden McDaniels. I think it's interesting to note, too, with Jaden McDaniels playing like this, the Wolves didn't have Jaden McDaniels when they played the Nuggets last year. He had punched a wall in the play-in game and broke his hand, broke his wrist, something, and he didn't play in it. If he's playing like this, I mean, he could take Michael Porter Jr. out of the game. He could take Jamal Murray out of the game. Like, that's an important piece. But yeah, for Minnesota, it is their first playoff series win since 2004, which is wild. But not a great history for that franchise. But shout out to the Wolves, man. It's been cool to see. Their social media team's been crushing it. They're a fun team to watch. So I'm excited to watch them keep going. So in this game 4, I just want to throw this out there for an example of what these players ended up doing for the Suns. In this game 4, Devin Booker had 49 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. KD had 33 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. And then the third leg of the big 3, Bradley Beal, 9 points and fouled out. He is the issue. I mean, there was a part in, I think it was game 3, where, which obviously everybody knows, if you go down 3-0 in a series, it is over. Like, nobody's ever come back from that. Nobody's ever gonna come back from that. And at the end of game 3, when they were about to lose it, at home, the camera pans to the bench, and Bradley Beal is sitting there laughing out loud, like hysterically, with Isaiah Thomas. I mean, there was the clip that went viral a little bit of him not even like giving Frank Vogel a high five when he walks off the court. I don't know, man. It's a tough look. And he played horrible. Like he played awful this entire series. And the issue is you can't trade him because he has a no trade clause. So I think it's tough. So I'll get into that in a second. But Frank Vogel has now been put on the hot seat by Shams, and all these people have kind of mentioned it and referenced it, but I think it's wild. I mean, he hasn't been given a fair hand. He's a championship-winning coach that was dealt a 2K franchise team that is all dominant offensive players that don't have great defensive tendencies as a defensive coach. Like, what's he supposed to do with that? He has no depth. Matt Ishbia literally built a 2K franchise team and just said, here, figure it out. I don't know what he's supposed to do. I think it's unfair to have Frank Vogel on the hot seat. I think he deserves another year at least. But yeah, I think Matt Ishbia is just... He's literally just the stereotypical, like, rich guy, and he's like, all right, screw it. Let's just throw a bunch of money around and see what happens. Because, like, the only 2 moves that I know of him making is getting KD and getting Bradley Beal. In the second that it happened with Bradley Beal, you can find the tape wherever it is in a podcast. When they signed Bradley Beal, I said there's no chance this will work. There's one ball. There's one ball on the court. They don't have a true point. And, I mean, Nurkic was almost unplayable in this series. So, I just think it'd be a tough time to be a Suns fan, to say the least. But I'll talk a little bit more about the Suns franchise and how brutal it's going to be the next few years. So, the Suns, 0 playoff wins this season. They also have 0 first-round picks from 2025 to 2030 and 0 second-round picks from 2024 to 2030. So, it's wild. They're going to have 1 pick this year, and after that, they won't have a pick till 2030, unless they figure out some stuff to end up trading. But obviously, they can't trade Bradley Beal right now. So, some of the contracts right now. Kevin Durant he's on a 2-year, $103.1 million contract. I think that's the most important piece right now. all the buzz is like him going back to OKC. I saw somebody say the other day the Miami Heat are the favorite to get him right now. I think it's almost a no-brainer to me because like you have to do something, and KD's value is as good as it's going to be. Like he's only getting older. I think it's time to move him right now while the iron's hot. So I think that's probably a smart move. Try to get rid of him. It's freeing up $103.1 million. Devin Booker, he's made it clear numerous times that he wants to spend his whole career in one place the way that Kobe did because that was his idol. But he's on a 4-year, $221 million contract. But I think he's a guy that you got to keep. Like I don't know how him and Bradley Beal would work, but I think it'd be good to keep D-Book. There's a lot of talk about the Knicks will be willing to offer nearly anything to pair up D-Book and Jalen Brunson. But, like, in my head, they're going to have to give up, like, 5 first-round picks, OG Anunoby, and Julius Randle to get him because of how young he is and the upside that he has. And, I mean, for the Knicks, that would almost have to work out or you just threw away your entire future. So, and then you get to Bradley Beal, 3-year, $161 million, and you can't trade him. So you're kind of stuck unless he just forces his way out, I guess. I don't really know how all that would work if he just forced his way out. They just paid Grayson Allen, which I think is deserving. He does deserve to get this type of contract. He got a 4-year, $70 million contract. And then Yusuf Nurkic just signed, and like I said, he was unplayable, but he's making $37.4 million on a 2-year deal. And, like I said, future draft picks. So in 2024, they own their pick. 2025 to 2030, they're all swaps or traded picks. And, yeah, I mean, it'd be a tough time. Like, I don't really know what you do as the Suns right now. You've got to get rid of KD. And that's why I also think the Thunder is it makes the most sense because they are the team with a gold mine of picks. They have a fair share that they could give up for that. So I think that makes the most sense for KD and the Suns. The Clippers Mavericks. This game is going on right now. It's tied 2-2, but the Mavericks are looking like they're about to win it. PJ Washington went viral in Game 3 for standing on business, basically. I think it was Russ that he was in a fight with, or like a little altercation or something, and he just crossed his arms and just had his little PJ smirk and just stood there. Like, it was just goofy. I've never seen an NBA player do that. But that was PJ Washington. That give me like flashbacks to when he was at Kentucky. So, that was cool, but obviously, you do something like that, you're going to get a little payback for it. So Paul George hits a 3 over him in Game 4, and he does it back to him. But that Game 3, Paul George played his worst game of the playoffs that I can even remember. And then Game 4, he took over. 33, 8, and 6. But he had I think he had 16 points in the first quarter alone. Like, he was balling. Game 4 was electric, though. It was James Harden and Kyrie just going bucket for bucket. Made for an exciting finish. But, like I said, 2-2. But the Mavericks are, pretty much single-handedly. It's on commercial right now. But they're pulling away. Like, at halftime, I want to say the Mavericks were up like 6. And Kyrie and Luka have just completely taken over. So, that series seems like it will be wrapping up. Yeah, right now the Mavericks are up 99-72 with 7:25 left in the fourth. So the Mavericks are moving on. To talk a little NFL draft again. So I did the last podcast on that Thursday night after the first round. Caleb Williams goes number 1. He's been showing a little cockiness. But us college football fans, we've seen it for a while. But the one thing that I think was, which maybe it wasn't supposed to get out to media, but it was a little much. The Bears took Torrey Taylor from Iowa, a punter, in the 4th round, and he texted him and said, "You won't be punting much." It's a little bold. I think he's he's building up definitely a hated fan base. He's getting a lot of haters already, but I don't think he really cares. Honestly, if you win games, it's not going to matter in the long run. So that's definitely the truth. Like if he's winning games, nobody's going to say anything anyways. Michael Penix Jr. It's been a week now, and it still doesn't make sense. So he gets drafted to Atlanta at 8. I still have looked for reasons to understand it, but it doesn't make sense. But I'm happy for him. I love Michael Penix Jr., and I hope it works out. But I heard, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah was on Pardon My Take, and he was trying to play like devil's advocate and give the reasoning why it was a good pick by Atlanta. Which I guess next year, as of right now, which usually quarterbacks will blossom within their last season in college, but as of right now, there's not really great quarterbacks next year. Shador, Quinn Ewers, and Carson Beck are really the main ones that I don't think I'm missing anybody. I guess Jalen Milroe could jump up boards, but so I guess if you're trying to get your quarterback for the future, and that's the one that you think is going to be much better in the long run than any of the guys next year, then maybe it makes sense. I don't know, but one crazy stat with that one: the Falcons are the first team to ever draft 4 skill position players on offense with the top 8 pick 4 years in a row. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and now Michael Penix Jr. That's wild. It just made so much more sense to go defense. I know I talked about it last week, but you got a new head coach a first-time head coach, I'm pretty sure, Raheem Morris, defensive-minded coach. Your offense is loaded. The offense isn't the issue at all. You just signed Kirk Cousins on a 4-year crazy deal, and you could really use some defensive players. And at that point in the draft, not a single defensive player had been taken. You have your choice of any defensive player in the draft, and you go quarterback. It just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like there was a world where they could have maybe taken a defensive player right here and then traded back up to 13 to try to get him. Then I have no idea, but it's definitely interesting. So that was the big crazy point of the draft. The first running back taken in the draft, which everybody knew going into it, was a pretty weak running back draft. First running back was taken at 46. Jonathan Brooks got picked up by the Carolina Panthers, which I think they had a pretty good draft in my opinion. It was as good as you can have. I think Trevin Wallace from Kentucky, I think he can actually be a pretty good pro. I think he was a little underrated going into it, but I think he's got a chance to, if he can prove himself and stay healthy. He's not old or anything, so I think it'd be a good pick for them with Trevin Wallace, and then Jonathan Brooks. It's a good pick. Who was the DB that they got? I got to get this right. But yeah, I think the Panthers had a good draft overall. So the Carolina Panthers draft picks, because Xavier Legette, that was the other one that I was missing. That was their first round one that they traded up with the Bills. They took, I could have swore they took, Smith Wade. That's right, in the 5th round. So yeah, I think they had so overall they took 2 linebackers, a tight end, a D tackle, a corner, a running back, and a wide receiver. So I feel like they're doing their absolute best to kind of go all over the board right now. So maybe they'll get to 3 wins next year. I don't know. But some of the teams that I thought had pretty good drafts, the Titans, they had a couple solid top picks. So their number 1 pick was J.C. Latham, and I thought he was gonna break Roger Goodell's back when he picked him up. And then they got T'Vondre Sweat. So I think that's a really solid 2. So I think for the Titans, obviously the Titans really wanted Joe Alt, but he did end up falling all the way down to them. So that obviously didn't work out. He was their number 1 guy, but I think for the Titans it was good. Will Levis seemed to be happy about it. Then for the Chargers, their round 1 pick, like I just mentioned, Joe Alt. He goes number 5 overall. Then they take Ladd McConkey in the 2nd round, which I think, like I said Ricky Pearsall is the best route runner in the draft. I don't think Ladd McConkey's too far behind. I think that he's got a chance to be really good. I don't know how much they're going to throw the ball with Jim Harbaugh being the coach now, but I mean, maybe they. It'd be stupid to not throw the ball at least like 34 times a game with Justin Herbert. But then they got Junior Colson in the 3rd round, which I think was one of the most underrated linebackers in the draft. Other than that, I didn't know many of the other guys, but late in the draft, they ended up getting both in round 7. Brendan Rice, wide receiver, USC, and then Cornelius Johnson, a wide receiver from Michigan, who I think at times showed that he could possibly, might call me crazy for this, possibly be better than Roman Wilson. So, I'm not saying, but I'm saying. I just think that's a good pick. So, for the Bears, obviously they had the number 1 pick, so it's hard to kind of mess that up. They took Caleb Williams. It was the most obvious pick. So yeah, that obviously is a phenomenal pick. Then they got the 9th pick, Rome Odunze, which I think he was in the big 3. It was Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Rome Odunze, and they got a phenomenal receiver. I honestly thought they were going to end up taking like a defensive player there, but they did not. So then they took a lineman in day 2. Day 3, like I mentioned, Torrey Taylor, punter. One thing that I did like that they did was picked up Austin Reed as like a signing after the draft and everything. But I just think it's cool that Austin Reed out of WKU is getting to have a shot, and he gets to sit behind Caleb Williams. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully he ends up making their roster. The drafts that I think were the 2 best, and they're both in the same state. I think the Eagles and the Steelers had the 2 best drafts, in my opinion. The Eagles, I mean, they both did exactly what they needed, players-wise. Like, they literally filled in exactly what they needed. So, for the Steelers, they took Troy Fautanu, a guard from Washington, and obviously it made the headlines on Instagram and everything. Troy Fautanu was a Troy Polamalu fan when he was growing up, so it just makes sense. He was a Steelers fan. They took Roman Wilson in round 3, which, I mean, he could be a Debo type in the league, which I think would be crazy for them. I think it'd be, I mean, George Pickens is obviously a 50-50 guy. Like, he'll win a bunch of jump balls, he'll get you yards after the catch and everything. So I think that little pairing will be nice, especially with both of them being very young. The Zach Frazier pick in the 2nd round, he was graded the number 2 center in the draft, and if you can get him at pick number 51, you can't hate it at all. Then in round 3 at pick 98, they get Peyton Wilson, who, resume-wise and just off a sheer ability to play the linebacker position, he is the best linebacker in the draft. He comes with a little like baggage into the injuries, so he has the injuries with him. So that's obviously the huge issue. But if he can stay healthy, I don't see a reason that he can't be the best linebacker out of this class easily. So I do think that is like he's got a chance to do something special. For the Eagles, obviously their number 1 priority was getting some DBs, and it was like leaked. I don't know how true it was. Maybe Eagles fans were trying to manipulate and kind of make people believe certain stuff, but it said that their number 2 guys, the number 1 and number 2 guy, were Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and they got both of them. I have no idea how, because like Cooper DeJean popped up at like 20 as he was the best available player, and he dropped another 20 spots to 40. So they got Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo at 22, and then Cooper DeJean at pick 40 from Iowa. And then I think the Will Shipley pickup is very interesting because obviously he'll be a backup right away, but you can't tell me Will Shipley doesn't have some high upside. I mean, preseason in college football this year, I said he was going to be the best running back coming out. He didn't have the greatest of years, and I mean, other guys. I mean, Jonathan Brooks had a crazy year until his injury. But I think Will Shipley could be really good for him. So I think I like that pick. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., a linebacker. I love him. I think that's a good pick. And then the later it gets in the draft, I think taking guys with a high upside potential and just freakish athleticism or freakish abilities in one way or another, I think that's always a good move. So in round 6, they took Johnny Wilson, the 6'6" receiver out of Florida State. So I think that's honestly a good move because, I mean, like, you might as well. Like, they're just going to be sitting there. So I think the Eagles and the Steelers would be tied for me at the top of the draft. And obviously, everybody in their own mind, I mean, people obviously are hating on Atlanta for doing what they did, but outside of them, I mean, everybody kind of had a good draft on their own. Like, Byron Murphy, or no, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name? I literally had him in the top 10 of my freaking mock draft, because the first defensive player wasn't taken until was it the Colts that took Leatu Latu? So yeah, he was the first pick. I think it was, I want to say it was number 15 in the draft. So and then Byron Murphy went, and then we started to get a little defense going. But as I mentioned in the last podcast, it was the longest streak of like offensive players opening up a draft. It was 14 straight offensive players. So it was wild. Nick Saban, he had his debut in media at they did like a college game day set up on the Thursday. I don't know if they did it Friday and Saturday too, but they did it Thursday. It was his debut. But with that being said, I want to mention his final draft numbers, which I'll probably be able to do something like this for John Calipari because I'll have his numbers just from Kentucky. So this is just at Alabama for Nick Saban. He produced 133 draft picks, 47 first-rounders, the number 1 overall quarterback in a draft, 3 first-round Heisman winners, 1 Mr. Irrelevant this year, and at least 1 player at every single position. Nobody's ever going to do it at that high of a level again. Like that's going to be untouched. It's wild. It is wild what Nick Saban did at Alabama. Yeah, so okay. The Mavericks just won by 30. They just won 123 to 93. And it says, with best of 7 series tied at 2-2, the Game 5 winner wins 81.7% of series. So, Dallas Mavericks, you're going to be playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, it looks like, to this point. So I want to talk a little college basketball transfer portal. Obviously, there is no right way to do this because it's just chaos. But I will do my best. So the number 1 player in the transfer portal was Oumar Ballo from Arizona. He ended up committing to Indiana. He was the only 5-star transfer, and they picked him up real quick. And Indiana, right now, as I'm filming this, has the number 1 transfer portal class. They got Luke Goody from Illinois, Oumar Ballo from Arizona, Miles Rice, who I think was the most underrated player somehow in the portal. I don't know how he got kind of overlooked. And then I don't know much about this Kanan Carlisle from Stanford, but I mean, seems like a great pick because he was graded a 4-star. So that one was big. They're number 1. Kansas is number 2. They have 4 commits. And all great commits. Rylan Griffin from Alabama, A.J. Storr from Wisconsin, Riley Kugel from Florida, and Zeke Mayo from, South Dakota State? Was that where he was from? I want to say that's right. Yes, South Dakota State. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, he averaged 19 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and 4 assists per game, shooting 47% from the floor and 39% from 3. You can't hate that. 83% from the line. Just a crazy shot maker. I didn't know a whole lot about him until the transfer portal opened up, and he entered like right away, it felt like. And you could just see his highlights, and it was crazy. So, And then the AJ Store one, it just, as soon as he entered the portal, it felt like that was where he was going to go. Like that, it never felt like he was going anywhere else. But so yeah, so Kansas is number 2, and then my Kentucky Wildcats are sitting pretty at 3 right now, with the possibility of getting like another commitment. I don't know if it'd be in the next couple of days, but hopefully Jackson Robinson commits soon. But we got Lamont Butler, which is famous for hitting that buzzer beater against FAU to send them to the national championship in 2023 for San Diego State. So from San Diego State to Kentucky, Kobe Brea, the number 1. This is the guy that I wanted the most in the portal. This dude shot 50% from 3 last year. He's from Dayton. You can't argue. I mean, he's a shot creator. Like, he can shoot off the catch, shoot off the dribble. Like, he can create. I don't know how you don't like him. But yeah, and it seemed like this was what it was going to end up being all along, because there was somebody that called into KSR like a month ago, and they guaranteed that this was going to happen. And even through it all, even though it didn't look like it was going to happen at times, he ended up being right in the long run. So I love that pickup so much. He committed today as I'm recording this. Andrew Carr, a big man, plays like a stretch 4 out of Wake Forest. Great 3-point shooter. He's gonna be able to stretch the floor a lot, and I think he'll thrive in the Mark Pope offense. Kerr Kriisa. So this was the most shocking one of all. He committed today as well. Here's the thing. It's like, Kerr Kriisa, I've been watching for a few years now. Obviously, he's one of, if not the most hated man in college basketball. He's a polarizing player. He's electric. And I mean, a lot of people probably haven't heard of him, but if you're like truly into college basketball, people despise this man. So, he played at Arizona a few years. He was the starting point guard when they went 33-4. Got I want to say they might have been the number 1 overall seed. I could be wrong, 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, he's a proven winner, and he's got a ton of experience. I just think the fit makes sense, because the way that he plays and the way he thrives is all he's going to be asked to do. So, like, the pros of him joining is, like, all that he's going to be asked to do is just what he's best at. So, I think that's a huge piece to add. He's not going to be asked to, like, carry the load a whole lot. I don't really know who's going to start between him and Lamont Butler. Obviously, 2 completely different players. Lamont Butler is going to lock down your favorite player, and Kerr Kriisa is going to just get a bucket on your favorite player and spit in his face. But I think it's a good pickup. I mean, I like the pickup. He can obviously shoot really well. I think he shot 42 or 43% from 3 last year, coming from West Virginia. So I like it. And obviously, I never even knew he played against Luka. I think he's Estonian. I think it's what Kriisa is. And there's a video that Kentucky fans have been posting of him getting in Luka's face. And everybody's like, well, if he can get in the face of one of the best players in the world, then I want him. So I think that'll be cool. Otega Owe, he's another phenomenal defender. This class is interesting because we got like 4 of the top 20 best defenders in the portal. But Owe from Oklahoma, outstanding defender. And he's got crazy upside. Obviously crazy upside offensively, and he's already proven to be like a lockdown defender defensively. The thing that I think is interesting is Owe and Lamont Butler committed 1 day apart. Lamont Butler has a strength of being able to create a shot and shoot off the dribble. Owe has a great spot up. He's a spot up shooter, and he struggles off the dribble. So I think it's cool because they contradict each other, and I think that'll work out. And I love how all these guys play in the way that we'll be playing offense, because like if you watch their highlights, what they do best is what will fit this system. And so I think this staff has crushed it. And I haven't really talked about the staff. Alvin Brooks, we got from Baylor, is literally, he was highly regarded like as a top 3 recruiter in the country. I want to say it might have been North Carolina when Hubert Davis got the job. That could be wrong. It could have been somebody else, but I want to say it was Hubert Davis that was wanting to get him to UNC. It might be somebody else, but there was a big university that was trying to hire him a few years ago, and he wouldn't leave Baylor. So the fact that we got him is crazy. And Mark Pope went on KSR the other day and said that the 4 top guys that he wanted to get, he got all 4 of them. So he didn't have to keep making calls. He got Cody Feager, follow him from BYU. That's like an X's and O guy. Then Alvin Brooks, he's a recruiter. Jason Hart, he coached G League Ignite. He's got NBA connections. He's got AAU connections. He's a great recruiter, and he knows basketball. Mark Fox, he's been in the game for a really long time. The oldest guy on staff. He knows basketball like the back of his hand, and he's great with like handling NIL and being kind of like a GM role. So they're all great at different things. So I think the staff was just handled perfectly, and I think Mark Pope mentioned it like he said creating a roster is so fun to him because it's like art, and you're like building something, and it's the same way that he did with his staff. Like he's such a smart and intelligent human. It's been cool to just see how he's gone about this process. From Drexel, Amari Williams, a 6'10" center. He can score around the rim. He's super strong. And one of the best defensive players in the portal. He was a CAA 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. So that's a big get. And then Brandon Garrison was a little shocking. This would have been Tuesday that he committed. A center that was a McDonald's All-American in the class of 2023 from Oklahoma State. And I think he's going to be kind of a guy, I hope, that just sticks around this program and ends up thriving. And that we get to know a little bit. So I'm excited. I love this incoming transfer class right now for us. Arkansas is 4th, so they have Zvonimir Ivisic, Jonas Adu, and they got John L. Davis. So it's interesting because everybody knows about the Jerry Jones thing, that he's going to match anything that like these Kentucky players, if they end up committing there, blah, blah, blah. They offered John L. Davis a bag. Like, it's kind of going under the radar. John L. Davis was leaning going pro, and then they just offered him so much money that he couldn't turn it down. So the least that people have said is $1 million, but I think people are just kind of scared to admit how much they ended up spending. West Virginia, they just got Javon Small a few hours ago before I started filming this. They're actually at 5 now. UCLA is at 6. Michigan at 7, so Dusty May's got them boys going right now. 2 of the teams that I had noted like right away, they both dropped a lot. Ohio State and Michigan were 2 that I had noticed right away that were kind of balling in the portal. Missouri's doing well. Memphis is doing well. But it's really a big 3. It's Indiana, Kansas, and Kentucky who have been crushing it in the portal. Those 3 kind of stand alone away from all the other stuff. But obviously, Arkansas will be bringing in the recruits. They have Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, Boogie Fland. I don't think I miss anybody. They'll probably end up getting Jordan Burks, I would assume. And then for DJ Wagner, it's still between USC and Arkansas. So that one should be interesting to see where that one ends up. But one last thing, because I try not to like bore you all with Kentucky talk. But I just want to put a little light on how impressive it is what Mark Pope has done. He's been the head coach for 3 weeks. He added a Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, the NCAA 3-point percentage leader, a 3-time CAA Defensive Player of the Year, an ACC starting stretch 4, a Big 12 starting wing, a Big 12 starting center / McDonald's All-American, Pac-12 champ, point guard shooting 42% from 3, and a top 40 recruit. That is crazy. And obviously the top 40 recruit is Colin Chandler. And then we still have Travis Perry, who is the state's all-time leading scorer. So it's been awesome to see what he's been able to do. And I mean, the staff deserves a ton of credit with what they've done. And for those of you that aren't Kentucky fans, it's hilarious because, like, we've never had staff on social media at all. And this staff is so on social media. Like, every time we get a recruit, Alvin Brooks posts some sort of meme, whether it's like Drake, DJ Khaled, something. And the way that we get a hint that a commitment is about to happen is Cody Figure just puts out a GIF that just says "boom," and that's it. Like, and it's been awesome. And all it takes is one boom tweet, and our fan base loses their mind. So it's been awesome. But speaking of Kentucky, this will be as I wrap up. I'm not even gonna act like I am 0.11 or 0.0001% of an expert of this. The Kentucky Derby. This is my state. I love this state. But I do not love horse racing. I've never gotten into horse racing, but you do have to admit it's the most electrifying and the best 2 minutes in sports. It's awesome. It gets you fired up, and then obviously it's fun to do the little like betting and gambling on it and stuff. So it's fun, and all the celebrities that come out for it. The Derby's a fun day. Derby weekend's fun. I know a lot of people love it. It's just not for me, but I'll mention a couple things. So the favorite right now is Fierceness. That is the favorite by, I think it's like 2 to 5 odds. I think so. Pretty good odds right now, but this is the 150th Kentucky Derby, and the favorite has only won 40 times ever. So maybe don't go Fierceness if you're into betting. If you're trying to figure out who to bet on, maybe it's not Fierceness. And one thing I do want to note is 2 years ago, in 2022, we had the second longest odds ever win the Derby. Rich Strike in 2022 was 80 to 1 odds. It was the second biggest ever. The first one was like 1913. So this is basically the biggest ever. So yeah, I think the Derby is super cool. Like I don't like horse racing, but I love Derby weekend. I love Oaks, Derby, 5-0 Tuesday. It's fun. So I hope you all enjoy it. Enjoy that this weekend. I will enjoy the 2 minutes of the race, and then I will be watching basketball and just anything else probably the rest of that day. But if you're into that, enjoy it. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy the basketball. As I mentioned, now the Mavericks are 3-2. So that's a little update on the series and stuff. Let me know some more topics that y'all would like me to discuss. I kind of did the transfer portal overall, but you all know my love for college basketball, so I'd be down to talk anything college hoops or college football offseason as well. So I will have someone special on whenever the college football game ends up coming out, because that will be a monumental day in male history. So that's kind of, that college football game is my Roman Empire. But thank you for tuning in. Follow the socials, subscribe, like this video, comment. It all goes a long way. It means a lot. So thank you all. Follow the socials. They'll be at the end of the video. The Jump Sports _ on Instagram. The Jump Sports on TikTok. Thank you. Like, comment, subscribe. Wish you all the best. Hope you have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the basketball. Enjoy the Kentucky Derby. And thank you. Peace.